meeting to order. I'd ask you to speak into the microphone as you can, because it's difficult to hear people in the room. I can hear Joe and I can hear Wade very easily, but so the first item is to approve the agenda. We have two additions to the agenda. Joe Mershon presentation and a IRRR resolution vote from Director Nevena. So I would ask for approval of the agenda with those two additions.
Commissioner McBride moves.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Wait a second.
All right, Wade. Thank you. Any other additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner McBride, I have a doctor appointment at 11:45, so anything that needs votes or anything, hopefully we stay on schedule. Well, I think we do have a quorum, but...
Yes. Yes, we will stay on schedule. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call? Or I think what we can do is if anyone opposes or say no, then we can have a roll call. The next item is the Treasurer's Report. Commissioner McBride.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to do the minutes first.
The minutes from July.
I'll move on the minutes, Mr. Chair.
We did pass. Oh, the minutes. I'm sorry. Certainly. The minutes were sent out
Second on the
about a week ago, and then Kyra sent them out again just 10 minutes ago. So, do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right. Who moved?
It's Patrick McBride.
All right. It's hard to hear. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion for approval?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a second?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Right.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Now we'll move on to Commissioner McBride and the Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty light business load this month, which was good. Thank gosh. Cold weather testing. You can notice on the first page we transferred $14,000 from cold weather testing to Kita for bills this month. On the next page is real light load of bills to be paid. $4,313.15. Nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing is I'd ask Kyra about the power bill, but even in the summer, there's quite a bit of electricity being used over in those buildings. So the power bill was over $1,000. $4,313.15. The treasurer would move to pay those bills.
I'll second, Harley.
All right. Any questions? Discussion? those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I think now we'll go on to Joe, your presentation, Joe Mershon. If you would like, yes. Oh, sorry, we have to go to the next one. All right, continue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. For KEDA, bills for the month, $30,506.96. Everything looks like a typical month for payment. Of course, the big one again is salary and benefits. What was the other one? Northman, the $1,500.
That's for the marketing program that they have in Northland Connection. We've been part of that 8 years now. And that's, an annual fee.
Okay, that's just an annual? Okay, so I would move $30,506.96 to be paid.
All right.
I again will second Harley.
Very good. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Are you? Commissioner McBride, are you finished?
I'm done, Mr. Chair. Yes.
All right, thank you. Now we can go on to Mr. Michon and your proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, good morning, everybody. And thank you for getting us on the agenda with such short notice, Mr. Chair. We appreciate that. And that what's before us right now is very timely, and we would like to move forward as quickly as possible and get back to work on the data center campus in Koochiching County. Unfortunately, despite the resolution in the spring from the TITA board and letter of support from Mayor Groba, Granite Digital and the county have been unable to come to an agreement on the extension or a new agreement actually to develop the Army Reserve Center. It's a simple matter of finance. The county is looking for a very significant downstroke, way above industry standard on real estate deals. It would park this cash in escrow, which takes that cash away from the developer, puts it in a bank account that doesn't earn any interest, and then we don't have any more cash to pursue the next several items in the development of the data center campus. So, that said, Paul and I have always acknowledged that the business park owned by TITA would be a suitable expansion or backup piece of real estate for the data center campus that we've proposed. As such, we have approached Paul, negotiated an agreement that he feels makes sense, we feel makes sense, and effectively would allow Granite Digital to develop the campus on all remaining undeveloped lots in the business park, which obviously solves a problem for TITA as well. The initial data center module is a $99 million investment, and that's just direct and development costs. By the time the attorneys and the bankers, insurance companies get their fees and premiums, and contingency requirements, startup costs, etc., it's about $125 million. Now, pursuant to our presentation to TITA in the spring, we have hired Newport Energy Holdings, a San Diego interest that was referred to us by Hewlett Packard Enterprise. They feel they have the investors lined up. You'll recall that we needed two things. We had to have control of property, and we had to make certain our deliverables were upgraded to investment grade, which we are about 90% complete. So we have a finance consultant willing to introduce us to the investors anytime. The investors are very eager to get into our community and see what we have planned, but we must have control of developable property. So what we're proposing, pursuant to Paul Nevinen and myself, is a very simple 3-page agreement. Gives us the opportunity to develop those lots at $1,000 a lot to KETA for the period of 1 year. If not that this would happen in 2020, but something unforeseen comes up and prevents us from getting that executed within the first year, we would have right of first refusal for a second year. Newport Energy Holdings has advised us this should be a 6-month process to get to financial close. Everything moves smoothly, which means we could have cranes in the air 6, 8, 9 months from now, should we be able to get everything done as swiftly as we anticipate. So I'm here before you this morning to ask that you consider the approval of the agreement and let the roughly 50 personnel associated with Granite Digital Realty get back to work and get this data center underway. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Questions for Mr. Michon?
Mr. Chair, this is Paul. I just wanted to establish the fact that the final plat has not been approved by the City of International Falls yet. It's basically a formality. Some final title work was done and a tidying up of the legal description, but that's going before the City Council, I believe, at their next meeting. So at that point, we'll get approval on the plat. But we've basically, Joe is looking for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the lots to the south and to the east, and then block 4, which is adjacent to lot 2. So, and Joe's developed some conceptual renderings of what these data halls would look like on the property, just to provide some context of what it would look like. But you're looking at doing this in a phased manner, right? I mean,
Yes. So the development that I spoke with regard to the numbers, that's phase 1. The property can easily accommodate 3 additional phases for a total of 40 megawatts and about $500 million in capital investment. We have not abandoned the Army Reserve project, by the way. We would very much like to get back to at some point with the county, because that existing building can still serve as the network operations center for both properties. We only need one network operations center in town without regard to how many modules go online. And what we're hoping is once we get the investors to the table, we can get past this financial issue with the county and actually develop both properties, including the water tower center property, which we currently hold, which would give us 7 modules in town right at the conclusion of the project.
and Mr. Chair, we're also looking at, as part of the development, 13 full-time equivalent jobs. That would be year 2.
Yes, that would be 12 months after construction is commenced, and that is 75% of the number that we're actually budgeting for. We're budgeting for a little over $2 million a year payroll initially just for phase 1 at 17 positions, but we would be contractually obligated to certify to KETA that we've got 13 online. There's a little safety margin there.
Director, lot 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yep,
What about the exception? Was that
that's Koochiching.
that's Koochiching, so that is. And lot 3 and 4, if that was to go, you would remain with a buffer to 2nd Avenue East?
Yes, absolutely. That was a concern.
I was concerned with even the previous group that was looking at that.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
And Mr. Chair, it's Paul again. I have not had Attorney Shimon review the developers agreement. We front of you today so that Joe could give you an update on where he's at, what we're looking for the business park, and start that process. But it would certainly need to be reviewed by Attorney Shimon.
So you're not requesting approval today. You're just an update information.
Formal approval, I think, would be based on just Attorney Shimon, but I did, in essence, this is the agreement before us, is as Joe outlined. Joe is also going to be looking for tax abatement. They're going to be looking at some rezoning, possibly, for the back lot. Assistance with wetlands to do a wetland determination, as well as some assistance with state programs through deed that we've already discussed with deed in the past. So those are the essential elements.
You don't have wetlands in Koochiching County.
Not much. We did an initial determination on the first phase of the business park, and there was some small impacts. But we would, with the extension, we would have to do it. We work with Soil and Water, Kooch Soil and Water. They could do not a full delineation, but more of a determination. And that's inexpensive as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Joe now. Joe, if Keith went through and approved this request, and I think he said $1,000 to
McBride, I couldn't hear you.
$1,000 per lot.
$1,000 per lot, and that would give you, as far as your investors, you have land then to move forward.
Correct.
But still allows you to work the other ones, possibly with the county, whatever. Yes. But this at least allows you to say, "Hey, we got land."
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's really the main piece.
It may not be where it eventually goes, but it gives you a chance to say, "We have the land."
Paul and I have always seen the business park as the next step beyond our reserve. What typically happens when a community brings the data center industry in is the first module is proof of concept, and once that's proved to be productive, as it will be with the partners that we have with us, this is not the first data center, it's about the 3,000 data center that these folks have been involved in. There tends to be a flurry of activity, particularly with the competitive advantages that we have with our cold weather, our proprietary design by our engineers. We relieve the customers of significant costs associated with operating the data center because of the cold weather. And here's a chart I'll pass around if anybody's interested. That's the weather analysis that the engineers at HPE did 5-6 years ago that proved that we only need to run chillers about 400 hours a year, meaning that 95% of the time they're not paying power bills to run air conditioners effectively. Saves the customer well over $1 million a year per module. And that's very conservative. Even with all those savings, our power bill is projected by Minnesota Power to be $400,000 a month. So when we begin saving customers millions, they tend to swarm these new developments.
And Mr. Chair, Joe and his team have been at this a long time, and there's been some setbacks, as we're all aware of. But I think they're at a point in time now, especially with Newport Energy, and some of the relationships that have been established with some of these investment groups, that I think everything's aligning now, where there's a very good chance of success. And I just applaud Joe for his patience and determination in his group, because there's a lot of moving parts to this, and I think we're, with the expansion of the business park, we have a good setting for some
question, Harley.
Yes, please proceed.
Hey, Joe, Paul, can you help me with the zoning changes that you would need on the site?
Well, the lots to the east, 3 and 4 that abut Second Avenue East, the understanding was that they were going to be more commercial or office than industrial. I think the rest of the business park is zoned M2 manufacturing. And I don't know in the final plat that was instituted in there, but I know that was the understanding that, and this would certainly fit under that. The data hall is a how would you describe it? It's not industrial in nature.
It is a very well fortified facility, 56,000 square feet. It is akin to a bank vault. Instead of guarding cash, however, we guard data, which is far more valuable. So we basically turn electrons into photons as a leaseholder to tenants.
So,
right, and I understand. Paul, you're on the zoning board for the city. Is this the lots that we just changed in the last 9 months?
No, this was part of the final plat. It hasn't been finalized yet. But as part of that discussion, though, that was the intent, was to make sure that those lots, any development would be more commercial, light assembly, not manufacturing.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm satisfied with the answers.
Any other questions?
Joe. Mr. Chair, one more for Joe and maybe for Harley. Height of the building, is there a height restriction within the city of International Falls?
There is. I believe it's 35 feet.
35 feet, same as Rainier is okay.
Yeah, and we would not need to we will build within those codes.
Other questions? All right, what's your pleasure?
You don't need any action.
Mr. Chair, I would just would forward this agreement this draft onto Steve Shimon for his review, and based on his review, then we would enter into agreement, and would certainly share that draft with the board and any of Steve Shimon's comments or concerns. It's pretty straightforward, though. I don't anticipate, but again, in the interest of time and trying to keep this project moving forward, we'd like to move.
We should have a motion. I would move to submit the request as brought by the director to legal, and then to be brought to the board for action when it's ready.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mayor Groba. Further discussion?
So I have a question on the motion. So actually it's not on the motion. Joe, how timely sensitive is this at this point? So are we somewhat rushed to maybe call a special meeting when we hear back from legal, or is this something that we can deal with next month? The fact that we only meet once a month sometimes can be a hindrance to progress. So I'm just curious on your take on the timeline.
At this point, days do matter. These investors will not hold their interest forever, and they were approached back in January when we originally requested the extension. So, presuming legal approves the agreement, a special meeting would really be appreciated without question. But we understand, we're at the mercy of the board.
I think that's part of Commissioner McBride. Your motion said when legal was done, we would meet. Does that mean immediately?
I would be fine.
Pardon?
I would be fine with that.
All right.
I would be fine with that. To the motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Michon.
Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Paul, do you want to do the IRRR resolution, or do you want to do that as part of your report?
This is, we can do it right now. It's required as part of the process to access those IRRB funds. It's basically a motion that says, whereas the Koochiching Economic Development Authority is a governmental subdivision organized and operating under the laws of the state of Minnesota, and whereas the applicant has a need for a grant to assist with economic development authorities as permitted under the laws of Minnesota, and whereas the applicant is submitting its request for application to the IRRR for fiscal year 2021 grant funds, now therefore be resolved that the applicant's organization hereby authorizes and approves making application to the IRRR for fiscal year 2021 funds to assist in economic development. Be it further resolved that the applicant's board chair and director are hereby authorized and directed to sign and submit application for the said grant monies and all applicable contracts, documents, and agreements associated with the grant or the application for it. And then the part of a motion. So.
All right. Any questions, or do we have a motion?
Yes. I better recuse myself from this one as far as any voting, so since being the chair of the IRRR, that probably wouldn't be a good thing, so. for some of you.
So do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Move, Kraus.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Councilor Kraus. We have a motion from Councilor Kraus. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Harley.
We have a second from Mayor Droba. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to the draft budget. Director Nevenin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks everyone for being with us. We're getting better at these virtual meetings. I've been at this almost 20 years now in this capacity. It's hard to believe it went that fast, but this is by far the most difficult budget we've had to go through. Kyra and I have been working, and it's difficult due to a number of things, but COVID especially now, the impact that that's had, and the uncertainty going forward with the cold weather testing. I've provided in your packets several pieces of budget information for cold weather testing and for KETA. There's also a budget balance that just establishes how we got to these numbers, but also a budget narrative. And I've been doing this as part of our budget discussions for some time now, but I feel a need to kind of, again, for some of those folks that are fairly new to the process, just kind of how we look at this. And from the income side for KETA, our primary funding comes from two sources. The IRRB, which we just passed that resolution. We're anticipating about, 80,000 from IRRB, Kyra, approximately. That's year to year, it's based on a formula, so we never quite know, but it's been between 85 and 95,000. The rest of our funding comes from cold weather testing revenue. Both Jaguar Land Rover, who we have on a 5-year lease, and then our other clients. We're fairly unique that way in that our funding is structured that way, but it's worked out well for us. And we would have been just fine actually this year, but we had at least four test groups cancel, and that's between $40,000 and $50,000 of revenue that we lost due to COVID. I reached out to a lot of our test customers just to let them know, just to see where they're at. There's still a lot of uncertainty. We've got 4 commitments to date from our former customers. Other customer, General Motors, has canceled all their test programs with us this year. So we're waiting on others to fill that void, but our target is approximately 10 weeks. If we can get 10 weeks of testing, it's approximately $100,000. So just to give you that as a basis for where our funding comes from. Now, the reason that I gave you 2 different versions was one, we still have the cold box loan repayments. We're 2 payments behind to the city, both the city and the county. Those payments are approximately, or they're $78,498 to each city and county for 2019 and 2020. If we made those payments, we would find ourselves in a negative fund balance to start the year. So it's challenging that way. Number one, I don't know if we're going to see that 10 weeks of testing scheduled, and then if we have to pay the city and county back this year with both payments, it will be challenging. One of the things we talked about is possibly going back to the city and county this year for supplemental funding to help us through this time. And I should have a better sense of where we are with the test schedule, the September timeframe. But I just wanted to put that out as a possibility that we may have to go before the city and the county for some supplemental funding this year. My hope is to be a one-time, but again, with what's happening, it's hard to say. One of the other things we looked at was we pay $2,100 to the airport commission for the lease on the cold weather building. That might be something to look at if we could defer that monthly payment and save us about $26,000 a year for 1 year. Again, to give us some breathing room and allow us to get reestablished. In terms of other income sources on our budget, we do get some funding from the Northland Foundation to help offset Joanne's salary. We budgeted $20,000 again this year for that from the Northland Foundation, and that's a reimbursement based on clients that Joanne works with. So again, $20,000 to help offset their salary. Also on the income side, the Airport Commission Administration, Kyra is the acting administrator of the airport, and the commission pays her a fee for that to help offset her salary as well, to make her whole. We also administer Koochiching. It's a small monthly admin that we get from administering that gap loan program for the county. On the expense side, we've been at this long enough. It's fairly consistent. Our biggest expense, obviously, is our employee expense. We also, with office and insurance and those types of things, they've remained fairly constant over the course of the last several years. Marketing and advertising, we've really re-examined that and are focusing more on your ticket home rather than print ads and site selection publications, as well as attending conferences or seminars. I've basically eliminated that, and due to COVID, there's been a lot of restrictions on that. But so try to look at all areas where we can try to cut back or save, and real credit to Joanne and Kyra on that to limit our expenses. So with that, I wanted to just give you a sense of where things are at in a draft format for KEDA. For cold weather too, again, it's fairly constant. We have expenses surrounding maintaining the building, following, administering our test groups. We've got a good track record though, and our costs are basically a reflection of that. We've been fairly constant from the expense side. I guess I would field any questions at this point surrounding the budget.
All right, questions for Director Nevenin?
So Paul, if I may, Mr. Chair, so when would the final budget come before the authority?
I would hope to have it next month. And again, I would hope to have a sense of how many test programs, what weeks we can schedule. But I'm just trying to anticipate, several different scenarios here and put that in front of you. The other problem with the test folks is the delay in payment. When we're on 60-day terms or 90-day terms with some of them, and even like General Motors, I think they were 120 days out before they pay. So that's a little challenging as well, managing that cash flow when things are tight. But we should get our IRRB funding October or November. That will help get us into the season, and hopefully we can book those 10 weeks. The question then is that cold box repayment loan back to the city and county. We are going to do that. I would look maybe after the test season to see where we're at.
You think you'd have to wait that long? You want to wait that long?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to really have a good sense of it.
Yes, Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul, have you seen the IRRR funding? Has it kind of flattened out with the new budget program that Commissioner Phelps put in place over the years?
It's based on a formula, but it stayed pretty between $80,000 and $95,000 in that, with the reduced, and they're a year behind typically. With some of the reductions on the production of next year might be down.
I know, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Phillips implemented that type of budget to try to stay away from these peaks and valleys. Production's good, everybody did well. When production went down, so I think it's worked out better. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. Questions for Director Nevenin? Comments? Are we looking at a motion to approve the draft budget, or would we wait until next? I assume we'll wait until next month. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the CARES SBDC update and the CARES relief grant. Joanne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Round one applications, we had 22 applicants apply. Two of them were tabled for more information, and one was denied, but we gave a total of 129,000 $979 to local small businesses and nonprofits in Koochiching County. I think we've been working on giving awards out. I went to North Home Friday and the Big Falls, and I think we just have a couple more people to come and accept their awards from the first round. And then Thursday of this week, we will be doing round 2. And so far, we're looking at a little over $40,000 for round 2.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to add, and I really want to thank Joanne for the work that she's done on this. Now, these awards are for up to $10,000 for for-profit businesses and $5,000 for nonprofits, and it's another program that the feds provided to the state and then through the counties, assistance with business impacts due to COVID. So a lot of the businesses that were forced to close, restaurants, bars, salons, gyms, those are the folks that are really impacted. Now, there's other programs out there in the form of loans, but this was some additional dollars. And so we have created a committee from representatives from each of the cities in the county to review these applications. And Joanne did a lot of work on creating the application, making it online, and communicating out that this was available. So it's worked out really well. The committee's done a good job, and I have to tell you, business owners are very, very thankful when you provide them with some additional help. So it's been well received, and we look forward to round 2 Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Any other?
Joanne? Yes, Mr. Chair. Do you feel there was a little bit of misunderstanding with some of the people? Because I talked to at least a couple businesses says, no, we didn't apply because we got turned down last time. Was there a grant or loan that people put in, and some were probably did not qualify or did not whatever. And then when this came forward, they said, well, I don't qualify. I'm not going to apply for it. And I've told them, put your stuff together, come back and see Joanne, and there may be some help. I think there's some little bit of misunderstanding.
There was so if the business applied for that deed, the $10,000 from deed,
that was the one, yes.
They got a letter stating that their application and their information would be automatically passed on to the county for other funding and other purposes. And so I've had multiple people come and ask me, like, well, do I need to do anything, or I'm automatically, entered into this? And I said, no. I said, we haven't received any information on your business from deed at all, so you need to reapply. Like, this is a whole brand new separate thing, so just fill out the application and do it that way. So I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding about that piece of it.
And we went on the radio. There's been a story in the newspaper and also on social media. But I appreciate that's why we had representatives from each city making sure that their city councils could share that with business owners. But there was some confusion initially. And I've encouraged everybody to apply and look at the eligibility guidelines or call our office to see if they are, because we have had some calls with some of the confusion.
Any other comments? Questions? Thank you, Joanne. That's good work. And as I said at the last meeting, very, very necessary. So thank you again, Paul. Thank you for your work in the office with that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, just Mr. Chair, I would add one last thing is KETA is administering this part of it, so we are getting some funding based on per application. So we are getting reimbursed through the work we're doing. But again, it's worked out well, and the committee's done a good job. So.
And we are getting an administrative fee, are we?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Per application.
Okay. We'll Nevenin.
Well, Mr. Chair, you can tell by the length of the report that it's been fairly quiet. Just, again, COVID's been front and center, and we've spent a fair amount of time and energy working with Joanne and Kyra and myself on this. One of the things that's been interesting, though, I wanted to reference, talking to a lot of businesses over the last month and a half, 2 months, is the challenge of the workforce. A lot of businesses are having trouble finding workers, staff. And it's almost to a person, and I think some of it was due to that unemployment package that some people were getting. They were making more money staying home than they were, especially some of the businesses that, don't pay a big wage or a larger wage. But it was interesting to hear that from so many business owners that they're having trouble. And even now, and I thought with school being out, college kids and high school kids are always at pool. But even there, people are saying that they're having trouble finding employees. So just reference that. And I know other people are talking to business owners that they're hearing the same thing. But this can't get over fast enough as far as I'm concerned. And we just kind of work through these next couple of months and hope to get back on track. One other thing I would just add is our e-newsletter. We're working on that and hope to get here this week or early next week. But keep it brief. That's it.
All right. Any questions of Director Nevenin? All right. We'll move on to city-county updates. We'll start with Mayor Groba.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we're obviously working on 53. It should be another month and a half or so. Within the next couple of days, we're going to be doing our mill and overlay with 82 city blocks. One of the questions that I do want to talk with Paul about offline is regarding the hotel project. We have a new water main install up on that road. It's very important for the hotel project. It also goes into some concerns that we have on Pleasant Avenue and along with the 22nd Street project. So I want to get with Paul about that offline. We have a lot of infrastructure work. This COVID in some capacity has been good with all the infrastructure work. It hasn't impacted the businesses as much as we would have thought because we have less travel. So I guess in some capacity that's good. But I'm fearful for our small businesses in our community. I know you guys are well aware of the alley vacation for the TP property, the former TP property. It looks like we're getting an agreement with Holiday Circles K stores and a permit for the building of that. Looks like they will be starting building pretty quick. Everything is going pretty good right now. We're working on our budgets for next year, so I do appreciate the timing from Director Nevenin on trying to get us information for our budget for next year on if there may be additional funds that need to go to KEDA. Besides that, things are going pretty good. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions of Mayor Groba? All right. Any other?
Mayor Groba, are you going to be getting some chickens?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the chickens. So we put it to the ballot for November 3rd. The city council has turned down chickens 5 or 6 times in the last 6 years, but it keeps coming up from residents that their voice hasn't been heard on the chickens, and it will go to a ballot question. A petition was started by a local resident, Alex Carlson. I did help assist him in getting the signatures. There was a little incident that happened at the city that we didn't get the information back to Alex in a timely manner. So I did help him get it on the ballot. It is my belief that it will not pass. However, if it does, we will allow chickens in the city effective November 4th. So we'll see how that plays out.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Councilor Kraus, do you have any other additions?
I have nothing to add other than I will echo Harley's sentiment, and I don't think the chicken ordinance is going to pass.
All right. County updates. We'll start with Commissioner McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have much. Just I've had some discussions with some of the business owners along 53 and the effect of COVID, and obviously with all the work going on in 53 that's within my district, and some of the hospitality and lodging that are really, really hurting. Second Avenue East is County State Aid Road. It's being scheduled for this year, and now it's going to be scheduled for next year, but now with further work to be going on with Highway 53, and I'm sure they're going to continue to use it as a detour. That may go up to 2022. Thank goodness for this year for COVID, because the traffic, I mean, it's almost like a normal day. It's unbelievable how the traffic on Highway 53 coming in north and south is so light. Other than that, we continue to finish up some of our road projects, doing budget. I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Commissioner McBride? Commissioner Pavlik, do you have any additions?
No, not at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you, though.
Thank you. The Out County. The Out County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just be very brief. If anybody's gone through Big Falls lately, they can see that their project there that they've worked on for the last 7 years is actually coming to fruition. The other big sticking points, and I want to thank Joanne and Paul and Kyra for attending to the small cities that are outside of the limits of International Falls, and giving them attention, and they've vastly appreciate it. Is the nonprofits in these small communities are really struggling. The people and the institutions that they turned to in the past for funding, that's drying up or it's not there at all. So it's an ongoing struggle. We're doing well. The weather is great, and if you ever want to feel just good about yourself, drive to Birchdale.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Emeritus Hanson. The Representative Eklund, do you have any updates from the state that you'd like to?
A couple of things, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I said in the LCCMR committee, I want to bring this up because I know Paul's been pretty active in this, but it looks like the hemp stuff is really going to be taken off. So I would take a look at maybe contacting AURI and talk to them about the program they have going on. I know there was people over in the lovely Birchdale area that were actually looking at maybe doing something, and boy, if we could make something happen out there, that would be great. So some of the funding that has started out in LCCMR has really contributed to this hemp development in Minnesota. Another thing that I wanted to check in with is, has anybody checked with our realtors on how properties are moving up here? Because from my understanding over in the Ely area, realtors are having a banner year. People wanting to move up to rural Minnesota. And I think with our sewer project being done at Island View, if the marketing isn't being done for all those lots that are now open to the sewer, it should be, because I think we could attract people here. So it might be interesting to have and I don't know, Paul, if you have been checking or keeping close contact with realtors or not, but it might be something worth checking into. So.
Yeah, I do visit with them on the commercial side, but you're right. There's a story in the Minneapolis Star Tribune last week about the Brainerd Lakes area too, about how with COVID now, people are, and working from home, they're looking for recreational places where they can live and work and get out of the city. And of course, with some of the unrest that's going on in the cities, I think you're going to see more and more of that. So, you know, as long as you have the prerequisite broadband, and we've made great strides with that, and the quality of life we have up here, that's a
well, and this is just anecdotal, but I talked to a person that they sold their place down in the cities and they bought two places in Hibbing, one in town so they knew they had broadband, and another one at a lake so they could escape for the weekend. And so, and their property down in the cities is booming too. I mean, so people are buying. I don't know. This economy is interesting. And then the last thing the hits keep on hitting. Today I'm going to be down in Nashwauk for a rally for those of you that probably know they're proposing to close down the two prison facilities at Togo and Willow River, and those are the two facilities that have the CIP program where it's a low-level folks that get into a rehab to be ready to, once their time is served, they'll be productive members of society and learn a skill and learn a trade and that sort of thing. And it's just we can't take another hit in northern Minnesota. So there'll be a rally at 4 o'clock in Nashwauk, and myself and Senator Thomasoni and Representative Sandstead are the keynote speakers, and we're going to be going after the governor and his commissioner a little bit on this one today, because it's a matter of jobs that, you know, we want diversity on the range, but yet here goes a big diversification chance. You know, those people will be moving somewhere else if those places close, so it can't. We got to let them know our dissatisfaction with it anyway. So that's what I'll be up to today. Been traveling the district some. Anybody wants to put in a furnace, build a new house? I looked at Lampa Manufacturing in Tower, Minnesota. They build a furnace that is amazing. It's the only EPA approved wood furnace on the market right now, from my understanding. And quite an operation. You got about 10 people working there. Moved out of a creamery building into a little bit more production facility. But there's cool stuff happening in District 3A, and I think with this COVID thing, I think we're going to see a lot more people moving up here, at least on a more permanent, temporary basis rather than just vacation. So, thank you.
Any questions of Representative Eklund? Thank you. Thank you for being in attendance. Next item is the public comment period. Do we have any comments from the public?
This is Joanne. Just to piggyback off of what Representative Eklund said, I actually went down and did a presentation in Togo at the facility there, and I did write a letter to the governor asking them to reconsider funding for that facility because of the work that they do there and the impact that they have on those people's lives and the jobs in that community. It's an amazing place. It's beautiful, and they really do help people, and so I think it's a good facility.
Thanks, Joanne.
I agree. When I was in college, I played on a softball team, and one of the softball team members' father was the director at that facility. So we went over and played a softball game with them. So I did get a chance to see it, and you're right, it's a marvelous facility. So, all right. Any other public comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride. And that was all the way back to the 30s. My father, as a young boy, served in the YCC, Youth Conservation Camp. The family could not afford all these kids, so they put him out there to put him to work with the government, and he lived at Togo in that camp. So that was back in the 30s.
Well, it's been. It has a history of a marvelous history, I think, and it's a shame that it's up for closure. But All right. Any other
Yeah,
comments?
we're gonna do our best to keep it open, so.
Yeah, good. All right, we'll move on to the next meeting date.
Okay. Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride. I have a conflict on September 28th. I asked Kyra if she would be ready on September 21st. And we could do the bills then, to get, so we'd be ready.
Did you say the 23rd?
21st.
Pardon?
It'd be a Monday.
21st?
21st, Monday.
All right. Is that 9:30, 10 o'clock? What time?
Matter. 9:30 good?
All right. So how does the 21st of September at 9:30? Everyone okay with that? All right. Very good. Any other business? All right. Thank you for your attendance. We're getting used to doing meetings like this, and we maybe could have. Do we have 2 microphones on the table, Paul?
No, just the phone.
Oh, okay. If we could, I do other meetings like this, and if we could have more than 1 microphone, and down the table, I don't know if that's possible or not with the system, but that improves the meeting a lot. So I don't know if that's possible, but I think it would provide a better audio. So, all right. Any other business?
Very good.
Thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned. See you next month.